Okay, thank you, Dale. Greetings, everybody. Wow, it's great to be with you this morning, and I am so grateful that you're here, and so grateful just to join you to talk about something that's really, really important. But before we get into all that, I want to first of all make sure this is working. And okay, there we go. And there it is. Okay. Just a little bit about my background. So I first really got into politics about the time that abortion was on the ballot in South Dakota. That was one of the first times that I really stepped out and felt compelled to go help in any way that I could. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but the reality is we lost those votes. The pro-lifers, we sadly lost those votes back to back. And a little bit of time went on, and I just felt compelled to do more. And I felt like God was calling me to do more. And so I decided to run for legislature. I was 24 years old at the time when I first decided to run for the legislature. I'm not exactly... although I've got some gray hair, I'm not exactly an old gray hair yet. I'm not exactly a spring chicken either. Somewhere right in the middle. It feels like ages ago, though, when I was 24 running for the legislature for the first time. And I can tell you, the world was just, it felt like a very different place. It felt like a very different place. On the cultural front, there's the life issue. That was basically the central cultural issue. And then everybody's just talking about the budget and taxes and stuff like that and making sure we have a balanced budget and all that important stuff, but that was really it. Since then, we've really seen sadly, a cultural decline in the United States of America. And I just share that with you to tell you that in all my time in the legislature, as we've dealt with those issues, if you've seen some sort of cultural debate taking place on television, or you've maybe heard about it on the radio or read about it on the internet, we've been fighting it. We've been fighting it in the state legislature, and I've probably been a part of that. We've taken on basically everything that there is to take on. Sadly, a lot of that stuff comes to South Dakota, and we deal with it. And there's been a lot of good legislators, including a number in this room, that have taken those on. And I just share that with you because of all the issues that we've dealt with in all my time in the legislature. What I really pray that you hear today is that what we're talking about now is far more important than any of those things. What I'm about to share with you surpasses. The stakes are so much higher with what we're about to discuss than any of those other things that we've dealt with. Because what we're going to discuss over the next 45 minutes, if we fail and if the pro-aborts succeed, countless lives in the state of South Dakota will be lost. Everything that we fought for so many years to get Roe versus Wade overturned, and all of the protections that we've put in place at the state level, they all go away. They all go away, and abortion through 9 months will be written into our state constitution. That's what we're up against right now. So I just want to go over just a little bit about where we've been over the last couple of years, because I think it's important to sort of set the stage. So as you all know, praise God, the Supreme Court finally righted a wrong on this country that was in existence for 49 years, and the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in the Dobbs decision. Amen. What a great day that was. We threw a big party at the Hansen household. We rented a bouncy castle. We invited everybody from the town, and it was a great time. And we celebrated, and it was a worthy celebration because finally, the state was able to protect all unborn life. Finally. What a glorious day. I do, though, we'll talk about the other times, but I want to point this particular portion of the Dobbs decision out to you, because it's going to really set the tone for what we discuss here. In the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court said the Constitution does not confer a right to an abortion, something we all knew. It's so obvious. Roe and Casey are overturned, and the authority to regulate abortion is returned to the people and their elected representatives. The authority to regulate is returned to the people. That is us. That is a gigantic responsibility that is on our shoulders to defend life in our state and in our country. So once the Dobbs decision was announced and Roe versus Wade was overturned, there were a bunch of votes that took place in the intervening time between today and the Dobbs decision. And I want to point those out to you because you're going to notice a trend among all of these things. So we won't discuss these in depth. But you probably remember shortly after the Dobbs decision, there was a vote in Kansas. The Value Them Both campaign, that was a little different in Kansas because in Kansas, it was their state Supreme Court that said that there's a right to an abortion. They made that up like the U.S. Supreme Court did in Roe versus Wade. And so in Kansas, that's what their Supreme Court did. And so there was a measure that was put on their ballot to say, okay, we're going to set aside that decision of the Supreme Court and we're going to allow the legislature to just regulate abortion. Didn't even say how it was going to be regulated, just allowed their legislature to regulate abortion. The pro-lifers lost in Kansas. We lost that vote. In Michigan, now, okay, granted, Kansas is a little more, in terms of the partisan makeup of the state, a little more similar than to South Dakota than Michigan. But remember, Donald Trump won Michigan in his first campaign. And so there was a very radical abortion through 9 months measure that was put on the Michigan ballot. Pro-lifers lost in Michigan. We lost in Michigan too. In other states, California, granted California. Pro-lifers lost in California. In Kentucky, Kentucky had an amendment called Amendment 2 that would have said that nothing in the state constitution protects or secures a right to an abortion. The pro-lifers lost in Kentucky. In Montana, now in Montana, they had a Born Alive Infant Protection Act. So this was if a baby is born as a result of a botched abortion, the doctors must take steps to ensure that they try to save the life of that baby. The pro-lifers lost that vote in Montana. In Vermont, there was another abortion-related measure on the ballot. Pro-lifers lost in Vermont. Here's the reality, folks. Even on issues that were sort of tangential to abortion, there was a Wisconsin Supreme Court election, and it came down to two candidates. One was pro-choice, and one was pro-abortion. The pro-choice candidate won. Recently in Ohio, there was a measure to raise the vote threshold for a measure to pass on their ballot from 50% to 60%. Would have made it more difficult to amend their laws to allow for abortion. That measure failed. Here's the reality. In every state since Roe versus Wade was overturned, where abortion has been on the ballot, the pro-lifers have lost in every single instance. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to talk about that. But the reality is we're being outspent. The corporate media is against us. The pro-aborts are lying about their measures. They're deceiving the public about their measures. And this is hitting home right now in South Dakota in a huge, huge way. Because right now, as literally as we speak, both in Sioux Falls and in Rapid City, there are petitioners out there gathering signatures to put this constitutional amendment on the ballot. And if they succeed, if they get this on the ballot, abortion through 9 months is going to be written into your state constitution, into the South Dakota Constitution. And I want to reiterate the fact that across this country, we haven't prevailed at any of these votes. Now, I've heard it said that, well, this is South Dakota, we're not Michigan, we're not California. It's nothing to worry about. I'm here to tell you that this is the pro-life fight of our lives right now in this constitutional amendment. And please, please do not be deceived into thinking that this can't happen here. We cannot sit back and think that a measure like this cannot happen in the state of South Dakota. So what I want to do, just for a real brief period of time, is just walk through this. Because I want you to actually have read this measure. Because the reality is, and we'll talk about this, but the people that are circulating these petitions, the people that are backing this measure, are lying to your neighbors. They're telling people all sorts of deceptions about this. And it's important that you know, that you are equipped with the knowledge so that you can help fight, that you can help defend life in the state. So we're just going to go through paragraph by paragraph. So like you just saw, there's 3 paragraphs in this measure. It's not that long. And each paragraph is broken down by trimester. So the first paragraph relates to the first trimester of pregnancy, the second trimester, the third trimester. So this is the first trimester of the abortion amendment. Before the end of the first trimester, the state may not regulate a pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation, which must be left to the judgment of the pregnant woman. So let's read that central portion again. The state may not regulate a pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation. Well, what does effectuation mean? There's no definition of that term, and what we'll see is that there are no definitions, period, for any of the terms in this measure. But what's just the general definition of effectuation? So the general definition of effectuation would mean to bring about. To bring about. And so if you sort of plop that definition into this language, the state may not regulate a pregnant woman's abortion decision or the bringing about of an abortion. That is about as broad of a prohibition on any regulations, on any protections that you can imagine. So let's think about that in practice. What does that mean? Well, in South Dakota, we have some really long-standing protections that we had under Roe versus Wade. So like parental notification, to make sure that if your minor daughter is being bullied into having an abortion by her boyfriend, at least parents are notified before that abortion can take place. That sort of regulation is unlawful under this constitutional amendment. Conscience protections for medical professionals, so that doctors, nurses, so they can't be sued if they refuse to perform an abortion against their will. That kind of law is not allowed under this language. Even basic health and safety standards for mothers are not allowed. Those basic protections. When Roe versus Wade was the law of the land, we had laws on the books in South Dakota that said things like, well, okay, if there's going to be an abortion, because we couldn't prohibit it at the time, it at least has to be done in an inspected facility with sterile instruments by an actual doctor. We can't have those protections for mothers under this language. It's literally that crazy, and ironically so, because it's been the pro-aborts that have always accused us, the pro-lifers, of wanting unregulated, unsafe, back alley abortions. But now they write their constitutional amendment, and they don't want any health and safety protections for mothers whatsoever. That's insane. But that's what it says. The reality is they want that because they know if they allow for health and safety protections for mothers, they're afraid that the legislature is going to put protections in for mothers against their unsafe practices They want to profit off of abortions. Never forget about the profit motive behind the abortion industry. And they just essentially want to set up links where you can just go click on a link, pills will come in the mail, and then you can do your chemical abortion right there at home. In fact, in spite of the successes that we've had in this state with our laws, abortions are still taking place in the state of South Dakota, and you should know that. It's like the main reason why our pregnancy help centers are so critical, and that we help and support them in any way that we can. We've seen situations in the state of South Dakota since our ban went into effect, where a mother found a link online. She was sent pills through the mail, and I sat down with the doctor, and we were discussing this, and we just looked at the prescription that was sent along with those pills. And the doctor said if that mother would have taken those pills as prescribed, she would have bled out and died. That's happening today in South Dakota. And that's going to happen in mass if this language is written into our state constitution. We cannot allow for that. So that's the first trimester. That's just the first trimester. Here's the second trimester. After the end of the first trimester and until the end of the second trimester, the state may regulate the pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation only in ways. So this gets a little confusingly written, but that is to say that all protections, all state regulations are still prohibited, except for the state can regulate the pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation only in ways that are reasonably related to the physical health of the pregnant woman. So now all of a sudden, in the second trimester, the pro-aborts say, okay, now you can do your protections for mothers. Now you can do health and safety protections for mothers. Can't do it in the first trimester, but now you can do it in the second trimester. And that just goes to show that really in the first trimester, when they say you cannot regulate a pregnant woman's abortion decision and its effectuation, they literally mean including physical health protections for the mother, because those are only allowed once you get into the second trimester. That's how extreme that this is. In the third trimester, and this looks a little different, after the end of the second trimester, now we're in the third trimester, the state may regulate or prohibit abortion. Sounds great. Except when abortion is necessary in the medical judgment of the woman's physician to preserve the life or health of the pregnant woman. In the medical judgment of the woman's physician to preserve the life or health of the pregnant woman. That's the big exception, and that is the language that the Planned Parenthood abortionists can drive a truck through. That's an exception where you can drive a truck through. In fact, when Roe versus Wade was decided, there was a companion case called Doe versus Bolton. And in Doe versus Bolton, they actually discussed the definition of a health exception. And the court in Doe versus Bolton basically defined it to mean anything. Mental health, physical health, familial health. In North Dakota, they're arguing that it can mean back pains associated with pregnancy. That's the health exception that we're talking about here. Also, you'll note that because these words matter, especially when they're being written into our state constitution, it says to preserve the health. To preserve the health. And so the rationale could be, well, I'm perfectly fine now, but I want to avoid anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts in the future. And so that can then justify an abortion in the third trimester because it's preserving the health. And of course, who's the gatekeeper on all this? Who gets to decide? Well, it's in the medical judgment of the woman's physician. Who's the woman's physician? In the context of late-term abortion, a Planned Parenthood abortionist. That's who is the woman's physician. And so what we have here is an extreme California, New York-style abortion law that, if it is written into our Constitution, will legalize abortion through 9 months of pregnancy. It will take away protections for mothers. It will take away parental rights. It will take away protections for doctors and nurses, and it will open the door to taxpayer-funded abortion. I cannot say it in stronger terms. This is absolutely critical. It is absolutely critical that we protect life in our state against this abortion measure. And here's the problem. The pro-aborts are lying about it. They're lying about it because they know that people don't support what they're actually trying to do. If you go out and you poll the people and you say, how many of you support abortion through 9 months? It's a small, radical fraction of the people who support that. Abortion through 9 months is not supported. When you ask the people, do you support eliminating parental notification rights? They don't like that. The overwhelming majority of people like that, like parental notifications. They don't want it repealed. They like protections for doctors and nurses. They absolutely hate taxpayer-funded abortions. They don't like these things. The pro-aborts know that, and so they're lying about it. They're just lying about it. And we've got example after example in your state, in your backyard, on your streets where that is happening. We've got so many people who have come to us. So many people, like a gentleman named Pat out of Sioux Falls, and lots of people like him who have come to us and said, hey, I was down at the farmer's market, or I was going down at the courthouse. I was approached by this petition circulator, and I thought it was a pro-life measure. So I signed it. And it was only later that I realized that it was for abortion through 9 months. What can I do? Folks, there are so many examples like that. That sign on the lower right-hand corner was on their petition table. At the very top, pro-life. Second up, pro-family. And then third, pro-choice. I mean, talk about a confused measure. But that's one of their signs. In the upper right-hand corner, that's a video you can see on Life Defense Fund's social media page. That's an example completely different from what I was just talking about, where they have multiple petitions set up. They've got a petition for abortion through 9 months, and they've also got a petition to repeal the grocery tax. Repealing the grocery tax, much more popular. And so this couple, you can see this guy's shorts in the little picture there. You can see more of it online. They came up to some of our volunteers at the farmer's market, and they said, hey, we just want to let you know that they're scamming people over there. And they pointed to the petition table. What do you mean? Well, we went over there because we wanted to sign the grocery tax repeal. And that's what we told them. They handed us the abortion petition instead. And they looked at it, and they said, wait a second, no, this is the abortion petition. We don't want that one. And they said, nope, that's the one that you want to sign. And we've got it on video. I mean, that's happening in Sioux Falls today. The farmer's market's going on today. There are people not here at this convention that are at the farmer's market volunteering, trying to stop these petition circulators, educate the public in Sioux Falls. They're in Rapid City today on the streets fighting to educate the people of South Dakota and let them know how radical this is, because that's the kind of stuff that they're pulling on our neighbors, on our friends, on our relatives, on our fellow South Dakotans. So here's the reality, folks. We need you. We need you desperately. The Lord has blessed you all here with a great heart for the unborn. And, if I could just level with you for a second and be super honest, we've through Life Defense Fund, which is an organization we'll talk about here in a second, we have gone out and spoken a lot to a lot of people across the state. We've been to so many towns and had so many presentations on this thing. And every time we go, we say, we need volunteers. We need help. And maybe at the end of the day, one or two people, maybe one, will step up and say, okay, I'll do it. And the rest, we hardly ever hear from again. And that has to change. And let that not be said of us in this room. God has brought you here. The Lord has given you a heart for the unborn. And we need you. We need you desperately to help defend lives. So I just want to read this to you. This was a piece of scripture, actually, that I was thinking about the other day. I guess leave it to me to find one of the most controversial pieces of scripture, but it doesn't matter if you're Catholic or you're Lutheran or you're Baptist or whatever. Just listen to these words from James chapter 2. If a brother or sister has nothing to wear and has no food for the day, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, eat well," but you do not give them the necessities of the body, what good is it? What good is it? So also faith of itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So like I said last night, I'm just so grateful every time I come to an event like this, every time I go to the Alpha Center dinner, and I see so many people show up, willing to show up, committed to defending life in the state. I commend each and every single person here for the conclusion that you have arrived at on this issue. Whether you look at this from a Christian perspective, which I do, whether you look at it from a scientific perspective, which I do, a cultural perspective, a political perspective, the truth is the same. Abortion terminates the life of a whole, separate, unique, living human being. And that we know that we are endowed by our Creator with the right to life. But just as the body without a spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. Our pro-life position is right. But it means nothing without our actions. If we all gather together here for this conference, if we set up the booths, if we do the baskets, if we all gather together here, but if at the end of the day, by our inaction, abortion through 9 months is written into our state constitution, what have we done? What have we allowed for? And so we desperately need you now to stand up in defense of unborn life and mothers in the state of South Dakota. This is a call to action. In the biggest way I know how, please hear my voice. This is a call to action. I am not here on I am not here on other issues. I am not one of these people who gets up and just pontificates for the sake of pontificating. I'm not some sort of like a guy who flails his arms around. I'm actually like pretty laid back dude, actually. So that's why I really need you to hear my voice when I tell you that you are needed now. And if the people in this room, if we aren't willing to stand up and defend life in our state, then it's over. The cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry. We are the ones called to defend these lives. And we need to step up and do it. And so we create an organization called the Life Defense Fund. Now, the Life Defense Fund, I'm the co-chair of the Life Defense Fund. Leslie Unruh, who's with us, is the other co-chair. We created this with a lot of our pro-life friends and allies, and its sole focus is to defeat this abortion up to 9 months constitutional amendment. The first thing that I would ask you to do is go to this website and sign up so that we can reach you. In fact, if it's all right, I'd like to just let you do that right now. If you have your phone on you, just pull out your phone. pull out your phone and go to lifedefensefund.com. It's okay. I can wait. We have a little, if you go to lifedefensefund.com, you can either scan the code or just type it in, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a little sign-up form. And if you put your name in there and your contact information, we'd love to reach out for you. We'd love to reach out to you and get you involved. Get you involved. We have lots and lots of opportunities, and we need lots and lots of help. And we're doing all this through the Life Defense Fund in coordination with every other pro-life group in the state, in coordination with Right to Life and the Catholic Conference and Family Heritage Alliance and all Eagle Forum, Concerned Women, all of our pro-life friends. We all need to get together and defend life. So please, lifedefensefund.com, type it in, enter in your information so that we can reach out for you. We've got at the booth back here, I'm going to introduce you to a few of our Life Defense Fund friends in just a second, but you'll see at our booth we've got a lot of volunteer opportunities. You can't read that, that's fine. It's back there at the booth, so you can go visit Kim or Chris and check out those opportunities. I'll tell you right now, our biggest effort is to just encourage people to decline to sign. And so what that looks like in practice is that if you live in a place where they are petitioning, right now, that's Sioux Falls, that's Rapid City, that's Aberdeen now, more recently. We've seen it in Yankton, in Vermilion, in Brookings now. If you live in one of those towns, we're asking, yeah, you have a question? Yes, yeah. In fact, there has been a new effort in Aberdeen, and praise God for everybody who has stepped up already to help spread the word and give this information to the people as they're walking up to those petitioners. And so we have our Decline to Sign campaign. Our Decline to Sign campaign, literally, we like to put people next to those petition circulators and educate the public about what this amendment would do, in a way that, the petitioners, we know they're not telling the public. And so we like to tell people, this is abortion through 9 months, please decline to sign. And I'm going to introduce you in a minute to Chris, who has been instrumental in our Sioux Falls efforts. And she can just share with you a few thoughts about what they've seen, what they've experienced, and how important that it is. Here's the reality. Number one, we can educate the people and keep this off the ballot. I want you to know that that's a real possibility. That is a real possibility. We can be there and educate the people because the people do not like their measure. The people do not like their measure, and if they know, they will decline to sign. We're also educating people as we do this. So many people. We've handed out tens of thousands of those flyers already in the state. And we need to keep educating the people because it's important that they know. Finally, I would say, even if we are able to keep this off the ballot, the pro-aborts don't just go away. They might try again. There's no reason they can't just try again. And so I was convicted early on that one thing that we need them to know, one message that we need to send, is that maybe on these other issues you found an easy path. You think that it's easy to go get the signatures, and the media market is relatively cheap in South Dakota compared to other states in the country. And so you're going to come, you're going to try to test the waters in South Dakota. But on the abortion issue, that is not going to ever be the case. And we are going to fight them at every single step of the process. They need to know that we are going to be there to resist their efforts to kill unborn babies in our state. So I'd like to invite now, hopefully we got a microphone up here. So how much time do we have? 11 minutes. Okay, perfect. So I would like to invite Kim, Chris, and Leslie up here. And I just want to introduce you to these very strong women who have been fighting this fight every single day for going on like a year now. We've known about this. And I just would invite them to come up and share a few words about what they've been up to through Life Defense and maybe how you can help out. We're going to start with Kim, who's our office manager. So Kim, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Kim Buckles, and I'm the office manager at the Life Defense Fund. I have probably spoken to a lot of you on the phone. It's been nice meeting some of you here. I just wanted to go off of what Jon said as far as God calling you to be here. God calls us to everything for a reason. So if you were called to be here, what's the reason that you were called to be here? Thinking about the future. What are you going to do to help us defend life? There's a lot of volunteer opportunities back there that you guys can help us with. One thing that the Mitchell Right to Life group did was do a fundraiser, and they brought in a lot of money for us. So that's something simple that your Right to Life group can do. Talk to your pastors, talk to people in your community, and just pass out our flyers to them. There's a lot of easy things that you guys can do. So I just wanted to encourage you to come back to our table and speak with us and give us your contact information, and then I will be calling you.
Thanks so much. I would introduce myself with my name, but instead I'm going to tell you my name is somebody. So some of you might know who I am and others don't, and that's just fine because I didn't want to be the somebody. And I'm asking everybody here to be that somebody. And we hear that because people say, well, somebody else will do it. Somebody else with a stronger personality, somebody else that is comfortable stepping out. I can tell you it's not comfortable stepping out. And we are on the front line. We are on the red line in Sioux Falls. We're on the red line in front of the admin building. We're in front of the line at the farmer's market, but it's not comfortable. We have met great new friends and we have done things, and we wake up and that pit in your stomach happens. And I'll tell you, it will happen. But what my friend said that I've gotten to know quite well, she said, Chris, this isn't comfortable, but I'll tell you what's more uncomfortable is being aborted at 9 months. And when she said that, I put on my hat. This is my work uniform. I put on my hat, grab my bag, and I say, hey, good afternoon. We're asking you not to sign the abortion through 9 months petition. Here's the reasons why. Thank you. Have a good day. And we get them inside. If you can say that, whether you're shaking, whether you're nervous, whether you're confident, that's all we need, because they are targeting South Dakota. I talked to somebody that knows this well, and they said because South Dakota is an apathetic state with apathetic people that don't want to get involved, and they want to break us down so they can do this everywhere else. So I'm just asking you to be the somebody to step up, because we need more. People say to us, good job, guys, as they're driving by. Good job, keep it up. And I'll tell you, when they say that, and they say our responses, I can tell you what my husband said. My husband is a quiet accountant that likes his 10 key, and he likes being in his office. He is not a frank line guy, but he stood there with the sign in the rain, and people drive by and they say, oh, thanks for doing that, keep it up. And he goes, we need help. And a lot of the responses, I've read the end of the book, we win in the end. And they drive off. And he stepped forward one time and he said, but it's in between the chapters that we need you to make it happen. So we ask you not to wait, not to be apathetic. And it takes one person. It can take 30 minutes. It can take an hour. I see some of our great volunteers here. But you won't be alone, because it takes all of us together, and they're expecting to break us down, and we will not break down, because what's more uncomfortable is waking up November of next year with abortion at 9 months, and we didn't step out, even if it's uncomfortable. So I ask you to step out, sign up, be a part of the somebodies, so that we can all be together, because we're out there, we're treading water, and people say, thank you so much, but we're tired, but we'll keep treading water. We just need you to come and help and relieve us. And if you're in a small town, don't think that it's not happening there. One more story and then I'll finish. My friend and I drove to a town. They were having a county fair, whatever it was. And we were just wearing our shirts, getting corn dogs, spreading the word. And one lady was sitting there, her husband was on the grass, cowboy hat over his head. He was listening. And she goes, "Oh, thank you for doing that. I know Sioux Falls is so different." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." She goes, "Well, that would never happen here." I go, "Ma'am, over your shoulder on that hill across the street right there is the petitioner collecting." She goes, "What, here? I didn't think it could never happen here." I said, "Yes, ma'am, right there across the street from where you're sitting." So it does happen in your town. And if it doesn't happen with a petitioner standing there, it will happen when they go door to door and knock on your neighbor's door. So that's why we need people to get involved everywhere. Get a group of ladies, come visit us in Sioux Falls. We actually have fun doing it. So thank you so much, and please just be the somebody to step up to help us. Thanks so much.
Good. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. I will tell you, I look out in the audience, I look at all of you, I love you all. You're amazing people. I've known you for 40 plus years. So many of you. Guys, we're in something really big right now. This is the toughest thing I have ever done. I left Alpha Center pretty much a year ago. I go in and out at night and kind of check through the place, see if it's still running. And they were doing a great job there. And committed to do this every single day, because I don't want to be one of those people who wakes up in November 24 and says, "How did this happen?" Because vote yes both times is a little familiar to me. We lost. There's so many simple things we can do. It's hard. It is hard. Take a bag today, free. Just go back, get one. Walk down your street. Take a shirt today. We have somebody who's bought shirts for all of you. Just walk down the street. Have your neighbors over. Tell them what's going on. Tell them, do not sign. It was the saddest thing for me when a pastor was in the Sioux Falls courthouse and the lady said, "I'm pro-life. Here, it's just to get it on the ballot. Let the people decide." That's what their shirts say. Let the people decide. And by the way, that poll's #1 in South Dakota. That's how they're doing these initiatives over and over and over. And he was standing there like, "I just signed that." And I went back to have him scratch my name off, which is something we need to do in our legislature, figure out how they can scratch their name off. And they wouldn't let me take it off. There's so much illegal things happening with this whole process. And I get so upset. And I have lobbied every single person here that's running or has run and said, "Wake up. Stand up." And when I hear them say, "Oh, they're probably going to get the signatures. They only need X amount, whatever." I was like, guys, we are there. When we walk up at them and say, "Nothing to sign here," open the door, let them walk into the courthouse. And they turn around. Just last night, Alan said to me, "I went to the courthouse myself today." And this little lady, who's my neighbor lady, who's very quiet and very shy. And first time she did it, she went home and threw up. She says, "I can't do this. These people are mean." She's back there all by herself yesterday. He said she had a big smile on her face. And she said, "I did it. I had 45 people walk by me, and none of them signed today." Because Tatwoman was there. So we're seeing amazing things. This is a front line. And I know you can do it. We'll hold your hand if you want. I'll hold your hand. So thanks, guys. You're awesome. I know we've been asking you to do a lot of hard things over the years, but this is the one that matters the most. Thank you. If not you, who? If not now, when?
Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much. So I'll just leave you with this. I mean, I can't say it better than those three did. We need to pray for courage. in all my time in politics, one thing I've realized is that if there's one virtue that's really lacking more than any other, it's courage. It's fortitude. And it is a virtue. And a virtue is a habit. It's a firm and habitual disposition to the good. And so what that means is you just do it. You practice. If you're afraid, step out. Do something a little that you might be uncomfortable with. Maybe that's, if you want to go stand next to a petition circulator, go with somebody else who's done it for a while first. We'd do that with you anyway. But it takes just stepping out and doing it. I can tell you throughout my own campaign experience, I've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors. You know how strange some of those interactions can be? And they can get a little weird, I'll be honest with you, and sometimes a little strange. And I don't remember most of them, but I do remember the first time that I did it. Because that's always the hardest. But once you get out there and you step up and you have the courage to just act and do it, then that habitual disposition to the good, the courage, just becomes second nature to you. And so we're not going to sugarcoat it. I wish I was here talking about something a little more exciting. It's not it. We're not sugarcoating the reality on the ground here and the fact that we need reinforcements, and this room is it. I'm convinced of that. So God bless you. I will pray for you. I will pray that the Lord will inspire you to action, to defend life in our state, and that we can keep South Dakota one of the most pro-life states in all of the United States of America. So God bless you all, and thank you very, very much.